Welcome to Proyecto podcast, the official podcast of the Latin Builders Association and a companion to Proyecto magazine. My name is Gus Cabrera, and I'm very excited to have our guest today. He's one of the ambassadors of the LBA, and really my mentor in the LBA, the guy that got me involved in the leadership, getting involved with the leadership of the LBA. Past LBA president, unofficial president emeritus of the LBA, Bernie Navarro. Bernie, welcome.
Gus, thank you for having me here. And sometimes, yes, I got you involved and you became part of the fabric of the LBA, but it was like creating Frankenstein. You did better. You did better than the other past presidents. You've done an amazing job. So I'm just happy to be with you and moving the train forward.
My wife calls me Frankenstein sometimes, so I think I'm growing a couple of bolts out of my neck.
It was too much. We created a great president.
After 2 years, thank you. It means a lot coming from you, and I think it's funny because one of the things that I did when I took over that I was forced to do was digitize a lot of our old photos. If you remember, we had stockades of old photos. Right. So it became a fun exercise to go through a lot of those old photos and watching a young Bernie become a less younger Bernie and Gus Gill and Charlie and all those guys. So it was an organic education in the history of the LBA. And I think no one has, more of a lengthy youth to adulthood legacy or history in the LBA than you do. And we always talk about it when we get together. I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit of that.
Well, I would have loved to have been part of that digitizing process because it must have been a treasure trove of the history of Miami and what created Miami, and some of the great stories of what is Miami comes from this organization. So I would have loved to have been part of it, to see that and to spend time with it. So I'm happy you did that. But my family has been involved with the Land Builders Association from the very beginning. My father was a contractor. My godfather, Juan Menendez, was a contractor as well. They were partners. They were also partners with Gus Gill's dad. So the three of them had a construction company. And so the early days of the Land Builders Association was very near and dear to my family and to what we all represented. So that evolution started at a very young age. And there's been a lot of presidents who, were in the same age bracket, but really I was the one that still has dinners with the old guys, and every quarter we get together, every 2 months we get together and talk. And then I saw the next generation of leadership, which you have done a tremendous job on, evolve. So, been happy to be a part of that. And that's the beauty of the Land Builders Association. Yeah. From the very beginning, the leadership said, we're not going to be here for a long time.
Right.
So they created a position called junior director, and their kids, came by and they sat. There was a board meeting, and the kids sat behind the directors, and they did it begrudgingly, by the way. They really didn't want to give up power, but they knew the day would come, and they created that, and that sentiment kept on. And I think it's the beauty of the Land Builders, where it's an organization that never gets stale. I say that wherever I speak. It's an organization that always has an infusion of young people. And you see that like no other association in South Florida and Dade County.
Yeah, and one of the things, if you look behind you, the image that you see there, which was an NFT that we created for my gala, and it's very representative of the LBA. In thinking about an image, we had a Cuban artist that designed it, and it's Atlas carrying the Miami skyline, representative of what the LBA has done for the city of Miami. Our executive board received one of those. One of them lost it at the gala,
of course.
But that has to be part of that has to be part of the lure as well. So, but beyond having served with the LBA and served as president of the LBA, you've done a lot of other stuff. You were the chair of Miami-Dade College, of the Board of Trustees of Miami-Dade College, and very instrumental in the transition from President Padron to President Pumariega. You were the driving force behind the LBA Charter School. That really, at the point when it came into inception, was the first construction trade charter school in the U.S. And really, a model for what could be, what and answered a lot of what our kids need today. Folks that are not really interested into going into college per se, and I argue that foundationally a model for what Miami-Dade College North Campus did after with that construction institute.
Correct.
You have a heralded educational background, undergrad, degree from Harvard University, and have always been involved in the real estate market from a lending perspective, from a developer's perspective. So even though you're younger than I am, but you've been around a long time and have seen Miami transition. Our association has transitioned, as you made reference to as well. But how are you seeing Miami now today compared to what it was years ago, the growth that is happening, and where do you think we're headed?
Right. So to talk a little bit about a couple of the things you touched upon, the LBA Construction and Business Charter School, I think it was a great model for public-private partnerships and how to bring together a student. Not everybody's going to go to college.
Right.
So how do we teach them the trades? How do we teach them some of the things that are important to the construction industry? And I still feel that the LBA, 10, 20 years from now, we know the story of the LBA.
Yeah.
We have to build a legacy, and that was part of the legacy building process.
Yeah.
How is that going to happen for 100 years from now? So I was very concerned about that when I was president, and that's one of the initiatives that we brought forth with your help, and we brought it together in a very short time.
Yeah.
But those are the things that the LBA, we've seen in the LBA, always forward thinking. The presidency of the land builders like you and others, we wear it as a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
We wear it, thinking of the past and the future. So very happy to see the leadership, happy what you're doing, happy that you're bringing it to this age, which sometimes it's very difficult with our industry. So proud of all that. In terms of the future of Miami, what we're seeing, we're seeing things that we've never seen before. Yeah. Miami has always been the capital of the Americas. We have that.
Right.
That's something that you can't stop. It's a running train. Who is the dictator du jour in South America? Miami benefits.
That's right.
Wherever it's at, Miami benefits. But now what we saw after COVID was kind of, I don't want to say it like in a false swoop, but the United States found Miami.
Right.
And we found that it was other folks from New York, from California said, what a beautiful place. We want to move there. We want to bring our industry there. So now we had the financial sector, because we have a lot of banks, a lot of South American banks, but now we're having all these other industries coming in. And I feel that it's no stopping what we always thought was going to happen is happening. Yeah. And Miami, like T.D. Allman said in his famed book, Miami, the City of the Future, we're seeing Miami, the City of Future today. It's happening before our eyes, and it's something exciting, but the growth is unprecedented.
Yeah, and I always say that we've had these conversations where Miami has somewhat economically insulated from the rest of the country because of the influx of capital that comes from South America, from Europe, and to your point, from the Northeast, from California. People are coming to South Florida and driving the economy. We're looking at urban parks now. Actually, having a conversation about urban parks, we're having conversations about transit-oriented communities, not just a development, but a community that can bridge or interlace office, residential, educational, and also entertainment. So those are all exciting things that are happening.
Exciting things.
We're looking at mobility. Mobility is becoming such a interesting and ever-expanding world. Urban air mobility. Miami is one of the early entry cities for flying cars, and stuff that you and I close our eyes and we think about the Jetsons.
Right.
We'll see it before our lifetime. We may not get into one of those.
Right.
My wife likes to say that there's a weight limit in those things, but it's we're going to see that. We're going to see that, and I think Miami has become this great city. But I also want to talk with you,
and to add to that, all the components that build a great city.
Right.
20 years ago, we had a faltering education system. We had F schools, and we were failing our kids.
Right.
Our education system right now is top notch with the advent of charter schools, with what the Miami-Dade County School Board has done, the innovative things they've done. Our past superintendent, our current superintendent that have done a great job. You mix that, companies would not come to Miami because of the education system.
Right.
They said, well, I'm going to bring my employees, but the education system is not the best. Right. The arts, we've seen the arts in the last 15 years come to Miami like never before. Parks, we didn't have parks. Things like the Underline, looping that around to the Ludlam Trail one day. Yep. Such innovative and fascinating things that we're at the precipice of Miami being one of the top 3 cities, if not already the top 3 cities or 4 cities in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about what you do today. Benworth Capital has grown. You've always been, like I mentioned, you've always been involved in the mortgage industry. I think it was through your help that I bought a property that I still own in Miami downtown, which I still appreciate you helping me with. But Benworth has kind of gone beyond just a traditional heartlander, right? Right. It is a participatory entity that really helps its clients in a full swoop type of services. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So back to the land builders. I sold my first business. I had a company called Home Mortgage. Yep. I sold it in 2006. It's a great story, but I owe my success and selling the company to the Land Builders Association. I say that everywhere I go. Our business was focused on new development financing, the end loan financing of developments. There were big players at the time in 06, 05, 06, 07 that wanted to come into the market. And our developers, our friends, they were very loyal to the service we provided, and we would always try to not let those national players come in, and they kept on knocking on my door, the national players. And in 06, I felt that when you'd write a loan for a new development project, you can tell the future a little bit. It's a crystal ball. People say, hey, you're very smart, you sold the company. I say, I'm not smart. Right. It just so happens that my business gave me a little bit of a crystal ball. Right. You write a mortgage today, you don't close on it for another 2 years in a new development. At that time, you see the headwinds coming of the financial crisis. And I said, when they kept on knocking the national players, I said, well, maybe it's time to sell. A lot of the developers that we know that we're friends with, that may be listening to this podcast, were telling me, you're crazy, why are you going to sell? The business is great. And I said, I think that something may be coming. And it just so happens that the mortgages were telling me that something may be coming, because borrowers were not qualifying for the creative loans that were happening at that time, which, like everybody knows, some of them were called ninja loans. No income, no asset, no job, and they weren't even qualifying. Those were products that Wall Street put out in the market, and the borrowers weren't even qualifying. So there were some clouds looming, and I felt it was the right time to sell. But I say that because of the land builders, because of the relationships that I built here. I built a great business. I built a great network of friends, because we built a great business. But the friends that we created here is family. Lifelong friends. Lifelong friends. The things that we've gone through, all of us, we each have a problem. It's our very own mentor program, peer mentor program, that we can call each other and say, hey, I have this problem. I have this permitting issue. I need to talk to this developer, this contractor, or even a government entity, a politician, and we help each other. And that's the beauty of the Land Builders Association, and it helped me to sell my business. But then in 08, in the middle of the crash, I felt, well, I think it's time to open up again. And through my friendships and the contacts at the Land Builders Association, we started raising capital, and we started a business named Benworth Capital Partners to put it in private lending, because all those programs that I just talked to you about vanished overnight. Right. So South Florida is not a traditional market. So you need alternative lending products, and I felt we needed alternative lending products, and we created those alternative lending products at the private level. And business has been great, but I owe it again, starting the business at the Land Builders, raising capital, and able to create these programs. Benworth has evolved. We're a lender, but we also participate in projects. We put capital into different projects. The same way we take equity positions and debt positions.
Right.
So it has evolved tremendously over the years. Benworth is already 15 years old, so it's very established, and I say that because Home Mortgage was before that, Benworth after that, so a lifetime within the land builders creating the business.
Absolutely. Now you're expanded a little bit into Puerto Rico.
Correct.
I know you're enjoying, your time in La Isla del Encanto.
Enjoying it.
Tell me about that. Tell me about, I want to ask a two-part question. One, how is that going? And when are you coming back? Because I know that's there's a deal in there someplace for the return.
Right. No, there has to be. When I struck that deal with my family, which is probably listening right now, there was a start date and an end date, but that will happen eventually. Miami is a place that we have strong ties to, but Puerto Rico is home right now. And this journey started back in 2015. I started studying going to Puerto Rico. It has a strong financial sector, a lot of employees in the financial sector that can help us expand our business in our back office. So in 2015, I started studying maybe moving a portion of the company to Puerto Rico. And in 2021, we made the decision to move as a family and move a portion of the company to Puerto Rico. And it's our back office processing, servicing happens in Puerto Rico. It is going great. It was like probably being president of the land builders. We were working 24 hours a day.
That's it.
To create this new entity.
To make it work. You got to make it work.
To make it work. And it's going great, and happy to be in Puerto Rico. The Puerto Rican community has opened their arms and helping us out. So very happy with the mortgage community over there that's been so welcoming and happy to have us there.
And then you mentioned the family within the LBA, to bring that back. I think you're right. That's our secret sauce. We kind of circle the wagons very well. We rally the troops when we need to. And I have fond memories of when you became president at a point where the economy was not as robust as it is today, the Miami economy. There was a lot of things happening that within our association that needed fixing, not of anyone's fault, just the pressures that the economy placed on a lot of our members. So I remember, endless nights trying to figure out the next event, trying to figure out a sponsor, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, and it was a rallying cry for a lot of us. But to your point, right, it's an experience that yielded, that kind of fastened us for the future, because
it made us resilient. It showed our resiliency. It showed that we're here for the long haul. A lot of associations, for lack of better words, the democracy that happens at the Land Builders Association, that there are elections, that there is not a president for life, creates that resiliency.
Thank God, by the way. Thank God, by the way.
It creates that resiliency. A lot of people get enamored with associations and they want to be there for a long time because a lot of them see success for a certain amount of time, but they become stale. In that moment, in 2008, we know of the famed financial crisis that wiped out 70% of values overnight. This was a bloodbath. This was ground zero for that.
Absolutely.
The association and our community. Values had gone up really quickly, and there was not some of the fundamentals that we talked about a little while ago, jobs, education, the arts, what creates a big city, weren't there. And or at their infancy. So the association had to look to within and see what is the future, how are we going to get out of this? And I think we did a great job. It happened in 08, in 2011, at the end of 11, I took the reins. I always say that the association didn't get hit in the first 2 years of the crisis because people were trying to say, no, nothing's going to happen. They got reserves. They were putting, the problems were happening, but they were trying to make it, thought it was going to be a quick and short problem. It lasted longer than what people thought. The recession, almost a depression, if I can categorize it like that, happened, and in 11 we saw it, and it went to 0. And with your help and the team we assembled, we were able to, kick off the dust and bring it back from the ashes, and able to create the foundation and see all the great and beautiful things you're doing. And I think that's going to help us get to the next 100 years.
That's it. And I think that resiliency during those years kind of forged our approach that we had to use during COVID. I always say it, I credit a lot to Eric Valderrama, who was his still immediate, he's immediate past president for about 2 more months. And then he'll lose that title. But, he was a steady hand at a difficult time during COVID. COVID to me was a crisis alike those days. And a lot of associations did not survive COVID. Ours obviously took a hit. Every association, every nonprofit did. But we survived. We survived, and we were placed in a position to be able to grow again, and kind of go from there. So, and there's one thing that you would always tell me that it's hardened in my brain is that taking on the presidency of the LBA, or the leadership of the LBA, is very important. It's more important to put the association first, not so much your self-interest. Those personal interests will take care of themselves if you do the job. So that's what I pass on as well to our future leadership, our incoming president, Anthony Gomez, who I think is going to do a great job, and the leadership that'll follow. Focus on building the association, advocating for the association and supporting the association, and a lot of your personal stuff will take care of itself. So.
I agree. That's always been one of my mantras to leadership at the Land Builders, and that's to the executive. If I can pass on a word of advice, it's that. It's, do it for the right reasons. The decisions we make at the board table will always be right, because you're doing it with your heart, for the betterment of the community, for the betterment of the association. If you do it like that, all decisions will be fine. Don't put your personal interests, getting ahead in your business, trying to get that contract ahead. That will happen at the end. That will happen later on in the future. Today, focus on the association and don't worry about your personal things. It's difficult. Some people tell me, well, if I'm doing this and I'm working so hard for the association,
that's right,
it'll happen.
It'll
you don't know when it happens, but it's going to happen. And then to the younger, new members, I also have some advice, and that's, become a member of the association, sign up, but be present. Don't sign up and say, well, I became a member and something magical is going to happen. No, nothing magical happens. Integrate yourself with the Land Builders, because you're going to create great friendships, you're going to do great business, and it's going to grow. It's going to take time. Another advice I give new businesses is in a luncheon, which is our main event every month, get there early. Don't get there 20 minutes into the cocktail hour. Do not do that. Get there 20 minutes before the cocktail. Let the room build around you, because if not, you're going to get overwhelmed. You're not going to know who to say hi to.
Right.
You're not going to know who's there. That is always advice I give new members. Get there early. I'm not the best on punctuality, as we know, but I say that to new members, and when they would listen to me, they would understand what I was saying.
And we've had a little bit of fun with the luncheons as of late, because we've added an after luncheon cocktail hour. So we really kind of extend that out. But what's happened?
We do that very good.
Right. Organically, you've had that congregation that takes place during the pre-luncheon, and at the luncheon it kind of just carries over and continues the networking, which I think is our bread and butter. So
one thing we've always done very well is party,
that's right,
drinks, and having a good time, and socializing, and that's part of it.
That's part of it.
I think that's our secret sauce, and we can be, present while we're socializing and doing business.
I want to close with a little bit, one of the things that I love the most about you is your family, your relationship with your family. You have a great relationship with your dad. Your dad, you bring him with you every place he goes, you celebrate him. He's still strong and kicking. How's he doing? How's that going?
Man, he's 85, like every, age is happening. but he's still kicking, goes to the office every day, puts on a suit and tie. We had him
always dressed to the nines.
To the
by
nines.
the way. Yeah, you know.
He says the
El
day
pañuelo, el pañuelo is always there.
pañuelo. The day he stops working is the day he knows that he doesn't want to go into the house and be with my mom and start seeing la novela, because he knows that'll be his demise. So he's cognizant of that and goes to the office every day. Last week, at the end of the week, I took him to a major meeting with a bank that we were working on some credit facilities. And the president pulled me outside, and it was like a 2 or 3 hour meeting. We're going over a lot of things, and he pulled me outside and he goes, "What I would do to have my dad in a meeting."
Yeah, special.
And that for me touched my heart, and it's very important to be,
for
him to be present.
I know how important your kids are to you. I know your daughter's just off camera here,
right?
And I always enjoy all the different concerts that you guys are always going to. I envy that. Not the concert part, but the part that you spend. I'm more of a concert in your living room type of guy. But what do you got? What do you got planned next? Where are you taking her next? She's not listening.
So we started going to concerts together, and it just evolved into something we did. And since a very young age, I started taking her concerts and to Miami Heat games. Yeah. And like 5 years old, I take her to her first concert, and I think about a month ago we hit concert number 61.
That's amazing.
So it's something we will always have together, and I think it's something that I cherish. And sometimes there's a concert or two that it's the new generation that I may not want to go to, and I say I'm going. I'm going. So I don't say no to a concert. And by the same token, she calls me on and she says I want to go with you.
Right.
So
I never quite saw you as a Swiftie, but but
we did that when she was about 8.
We'll play that over. Bernie, thank you for being here. You know what you mean to me. It's great to have you. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Bernie Navarro, past LBA president. And please look for us a future podcast.